Dude, strange things are afoot at Mainely Movies. Hey everybody, welcome to Mainely Movies. Today, I'm going to be ranking the 3 Bill and Ted films as part of my franchise Rankography series. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for a variety of movie-related content like reviews, ranked lists, and trailer reactions. So what is a Rankography exactly? Well, it's my ranking of a filmography, whether that be a director's output, an actor's appearances, or even an entire franchise. My Rankographies are based on personal preference, and I rank movies according to how much I enjoyed them, rather than any specific technical merit or attribute. Remember, this is just my ranking, not the ranking, so be sure to post your own personal ranking of the Bill and Ted franchise in the comments below. When it comes to time travel movies, we've seen it all at this point. Whether we're talking H.G. Wells style, DeLoreans, or even hot tubs, we've ventured through space and time enough to experience a bit of deja vu at the mere mention of a time travel movie. But with its duo of slacker friends and a most non-heinous phone booth, the Bill and Ted franchise has always been a unique little offshoot of the time travel movie timeline, providing us with a blend of elements that had never before been combined. I've already reviewed all 3 of these movies on this channel, so if you want to check those out for some more in-depth thoughts on each of them, I'll put links in the description below, and also link them up in the cards as we go along. So dudes, it's been an excellent adventure, and a bogus journey, but it's time to face the music. Let's get this Rankography started. Coming in at number 3, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. This franchise has always been pretty crazy and random since the start. I mean, just the basic premise is ridiculous, but then you add the characters and the anything goes plot, and you've got something that's pretty hard to describe. So if standard Bill and Ted is borderline indescribable, I don't even know where to begin with Bogus Journey. This movie is completely nuts. It's like Bill and Ted were spitballing the most ridiculous sci-fi ideas that they could think of, and the writers somehow overheard and just threw it all into one script. They go to hell and meet Satan, they go to heaven and meet God, they befriend the Grim Reaper and some genius aliens, they fight evil robots, and then still have time to rock out as wild stallions at a battle of the bands. It's certainly entertaining, but it takes the randomness of the franchise a little too far, sacrificing the story for oddness. It's just so different from the first one. And sometimes that can be a good thing, ensuring that you don't end up with a copycat sequel. But this movie's tone is far darker and far more inconsistent, which feels at odds with the joyous pure fun that came before. Luckily, despite its story and tone issues, this movie does have one thing going for it: death. Might sound weird if you haven't seen this movie, but this film features the Grim Reaper, and he's easily my favorite part. He's so ridiculous, but the lines and facial expressions and situational humor with him are just amazingly funny to me. Not to mention the board game sequence homage to the Seventh Seal. Coming in at number 2, Bill and Ted Face the Music. I gotta say, I'm relieved by how enjoyable this movie was. Coming 29 years after the second film, this one definitely had me a little hesitant when it was announced. The franchise wasn't really calling for another sequel, and I wasn't really sure how the whole Bill and Ted shtick was gonna work in 2020. I mean, it was funny to see teenagers doing it in the late 80s, but I wasn't so sure about 50-something-year-olds doing it today. But it worked somehow. That seems to be a trend with this franchise, taking a premise or idea that has no business being in a movie, let alone working in a movie, and then succeeding at just that. And they pull it off again here. This was just such a fun movie. It was dumb, like all of the franchise's films, but it had that pure entertainment feel to it that the first film had, where it embraces the ridiculousness and absurdity of the plot and just proceeds with it in a way that you can't help but have a good time watching. It's got so many nods and references to the first 2 films that it feels like a fitting tribute, while still doing enough of its own thing with the story to not just feel like a copycat sequel. Most of the jokes hit, and while some gags run for a bit too long, that's a complaint I have with all of the films in this franchise. The chemistry's still there between Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves, and we actually get a double dose of good chemistry with the most excellent daughters of Bill and Ted, Billy and Thea. So that means my number 1 Bill and Ted movie is Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. So this probably isn't a super rare opinion, but the movie that started it all takes the number one spot for me, and much like its name would suggest, is most excellent. This was always a movie that was kind of strange to me as a kid. I mean, let's be honest, it's kind of strange to me as an adult. But when I was a kid, I didn't realize that sometimes live action movies were just silly and random. So I used to always think I was missing something because I couldn't quite grasp the purpose of the story. Watching as an adult, I now realize and can appreciate that there really isn't a purpose to the story. It's just fun. And that tone and attitude are just so perfect for this movie and help to make it as enjoyable as it actually is. Because it's definitely a weird movie. Like I said before, even standard Bill and Ted is ridiculous, but in all its goofy randomness and stupid moments, it remains endearing and wholly positive. So even though it's really dumb, it's just so enjoyable to watch. The absurdity of kidnapping historical time figures using a time-traveling phone booth certainly helps, but the titular Bill and Ted are what elevate this movie to its lofty, most excellent position. They're such an unexpectedly good pair of characters. You watch the first couple minutes and roll your eyes thinking it's going to be brutal because they're so dumb, but it doesn't take long for it to click. The Shakespearean 80s surfer way that they talk, the goofy mannerisms, the wonderful chemistry between Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves, all of it combines with the silly, upbeat positivity and sci-fi premise to create a movie that's just pure fun. Alright, so that's my rankography of the Bill and Ted films. 3 movies, 2 wild stallions, and 1 time-traveling phone booth. What does your ranking look like? I'd love to see some reasoning for your order, so be sure to post it in the comments below. Remember, I've already reviewed all 3 of these movies, so you can check those videos out if you want some more in-depth discussion of each, as well as my ratings, pros and cons, and even tailored film recommendations. And if you're interested in buying any of these movies, I do have affiliate links to all of them in the description below. I get a small commission from anything you buy using one of my links, so I'd really appreciate it if you'd use them if you're in the market for any of these movies. Alright, so if you got some enjoyment, insight, or information out of this rankography, I'd appreciate if you'd hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe or add it to see more videos like this, as well as movie reviews. Till next time, this has been Alyssa with Mainly Movies, the way life should be.